Hello everyone, this is Raj Soren, Black Belt Mindset and Business Coach. And today we're very fortunate to have Christopher Neave, co-founder of Make It Wild, and he's going to share with us what he does and how he makes a difference to the world. So Christopher, tell us a bit about yourself and about your organization.
Well, good afternoon, Raj. Thank you very much. Yes. Well, I mean, in a way, if you wanted to sort of sum it up in a short phrase, we create nature reserves, and because we see it as really important that we give wildlife a bit of a helping hand. It's been under quite a lot of threat and stress in recent years. It's happening. It's not just here in the UK. Of course, it's happening really across the world. But you know, where we are, if we want to try to make a difference, because it's within our control and our ability to do something in our own local area. So that's what we do. That's what we are. And Make It Wild was co-founded by my wife and I, wife Helen, with that sole purpose in mind. Actually, we have you might call it a strap line, which is, it's not our aim to protect nature, it's our purpose, and that's what we see as the primary objective of what Make It Wild is about. So that's it in a nutshell.
And sort of how long have you been involved with this, and what did it take to take this off the ground?
Well, if you go back, my earlier career I built up an organization in laser eye treatment. It was called Ultralaser, and took it from scratch all the way to being a national chain of clinics over the course of 16 or 17 years. But and my wife also a different background to nature as well. She is a qualified ear, nose and throat surgeon. So that was her background. So neither of us come from what you might call a conservation ecology background. And we even today, we don't consider ourselves experts in the field, although of course we are every day learning more and more about the way that nature and ecology works, and how you perhaps can give it a helping hand. But the laser eye business was ultimately acquired, and the proceeds that released, I couldn't think of anything more important or better to do with those funds than was to effectively invest it into nature. And it wasn't an overnight thing. In fact, on the contrary, we initially only began this as a family project. We were most concerned, as I say, about the direction of travel. We're hearing about, species in decline, and loss of habitat, and threats to nature, and pollution and development. Agriculture even has a big impact on nature, etc., etc. And we were just kind of sitting at home worrying about it. And then we thought, well, rather than worry, why don't we actually try and do something? So we acquired a piece of land near the village of Kirkhamerton, just outside York, and we set about creating a nature reserve. This was back in 2010. We acquired the land, and as I was saying, we don't come from a background of this, so we sought a lot of help and advice because we really didn't know how to go about it. One of the organizations that helped us a lot in those early days, and in fact still does today, is the Woodland Trust. And they advised us that one way to really kick-start nature restoration was to plant a lot of trees. Not exclusively, of course, but very importantly, they are extremely important habitat for so many creatures, that was a really good way to get started. So we ended up putting 20,000 trees on this land, and we also ploughed wildflower meadows and lots of ponds and other things to get a mosaic of different habitats.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. And
just going back to your background, you obviously had a successful business and careers, and you got back to nature and came up with this amazing idea. And that can be quite a challenge for individuals who have a big shift in their life. And I'm sure it would have faced lots of different challenges. And you said you had to get lots of trees and get advice. So what were the challenges in your mind that you had to overcome?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, the scale of what we were taking on was quite daunting at times, because you've got, quite a large area of land, and when nature is given the opportunity, it grabs it with the sort of proverbial both hands and flies with it. And so that means that suddenly everything that's allowed to grow does grow, and very much prolifically and quickly. And give it some sunshine, give it some rain, and away things go, particularly the vegetation to begin with. And this was really a piece of rough grazing land, so it had obviously had animals on it, keeping the grasses short, if you like. But then suddenly you take those animals off, you put all those trees in the ground, and the vegetation just took off. And whilst you could say, well, that sounds like a good thing, that's wild, and in many ways it is, but we also had the job of trying to nurture these trees to get them established. And we quickly found that they were getting smothered, and the light was stolen from them, and the nutrients and the water, and we were losing a lot. And really it was, all it was myself, my wife Helen, and our children, and maybe their friends and our friends, trying to somehow manage this new entity that, again, that all we've done really in this world is gardening. We've never really taken on something on this scale, but as I say, advice was key. There was a compensation, of course, because we'd been largely working indoors for our careers, as you'd expect. And suddenly now we were, our office was outside, really, and all the compensations that brings. Because I think in what you do, Raj, you'll know that the outside is very, very good for you physically. It's good for you mentally. So it was very rewarding and a healthy existence, really, in many ways. So yeah, we did long days, and sometimes well into the very late hours trying to manage this project. And we weren't, at this point, it was still a hobby, if you like, for want of a better word. I had plenty of other commitments and charity that I was chair of trustees for, and a school, and other organisations that I'd helped, the startups. Helen was still a surgeon at this time, so there was only so much time we could dedicate to it. So it was juggling a lot.
Yeah, were you actually getting any financial reward from this, or was it all?
No, well, in fact, actually, from the get-go, the project was never about financial reward. And at this stage, literally, money didn't even feature in any capacity. It was
I was going to say, that your own personal money investing into this project.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, and as I say, I was privileged enough to have some money as a result of the exit from the organisation that I built up. So that, not only wasn't it a concern, it was never even an idea. It was really just a personal project. And but there is I'll come to an important moment when actually we decided slightly change that idea. But at this stage, 2010, 11, 12, absolutely not. It was just, as I say, a private family idea.
Yeah.
But after about 5 or 6 years of the trees going in, we really, almost like on one magical afternoon, it was like we were working there. It was a summer's day, and I think Helen sort of turned to me and said, Chris, can you just hear what it's like out there? And I said, absolutely. It's the place is buzzing with insects, swarming almost. Not in a bad way, but in a really rich and thriving way. That there was all manner of bees and flies and all huge numbers of different insects in the air, filling the air with that hum and that buzz. But it was more than that. We were starting to see other wildlife. We started to see mammals using the cover of the trees, like foxes and hedgehogs and sign of badgers and all that sort of stuff. And which Helen said to me, well, you know what? Nature's come back here. It's returning to its fact. It's saying thank you. We'll make this our home. So
you're saying that the environment you created is a magnet for nature to come back.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, even if we didn't necessarily anticipate when and how and what would start to inhabit the space, it became pretty clear that there was an ecology forming. The ponds, there was frog spawn in the ponds. There was sign of deer drinking from the ponds. There was, and footprints of all manner of things, bird life in the soft mud. Evidence that even if you didn't see it always, it was there. And then in that same autumn, the trees we planted were, well, you wouldn't be surprised to hear this, native to the UK. Most of them were deciduous types, the broadleaf types that drop their leaves in the winter and go into a kind of hibernation, if you like. And when all the trees have dropped the leaves and all you've got is the sort of bare branches, you can then see, up into those. And by now, the trees were 8, 9, 10 feet, many of them, sometimes even taller. The birch trees probably taller. You could see that there were, I don't know how many, I didn't count, but there were very many signs of birds' nests. They'd long since been abandoned because this was now October, but there had been birds nesting in all these young trees, and that really told us that the habitat was working, that they were using it, and that for every egg laid and chick hatched, they would not have been there. So if you've got a nest of blue tits or great tits or other visiting bird species, we knew that we were adding to the numbers just by providing the habitat.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's great for wildlife coming back, and that must be amazingly rewarding. What about the benefits to us humans? Because we're usually in front of computers, sat in front of desks and in buildings with not much sunlight. So, tell us a bit about the benefits people get.
Well, yes. And I mean, on this site, there's a public path that runs around the perimeter along the riverbank. And so, people were noticing the changes all the time, right from day one. Initially, very, very initially, it looked like the place had been abandoned because instead of there being cattle and it all looking sort of ordered and managed, suddenly it was looking quite the opposite. And the initial reaction was, well, you know, who don't know who these new owners are, but they're letting it go. You know, that was the first thought. And then the next phase was they saw this sea of tree tubes, and tree tubes are guards, which are like, you know, plastic cylinders that you must have seen them in the countryside, which each young tree is protected by to stop it being browsed by other animals and chewed to nothing. So when there's tens of 20,000 of these tree tubes, it to some people it looked pretty ugly, to be honest, to begin with. But slowly but surely, you know, the trees start to emerge from the top, and people get the idea of that the changes are going to be beneficial. And then you look, you know, and you fast forward to today. I mean, I am making a big leap there because I'm now talking about 15 years since they went in. This is, to all intensive purposes, looks like a woodland that's been there even longer than that. You know, and the full canopy, which is what you mean by the upper parts of the trees, they've all joined like a sort of big, huge jigsaw puzzle, if you like. So, and they're trapping the light. And under them, it's a bit darker than it would be without, of course. But there's open spaces as well. There's clearings, and there's paths, and there's ponds, as I say. And so it's a mixture, and people can walk around and start to just appreciate the fact that it just has so much colour. So much there's interesting shade. There's so many different species of tree, and it's visually and aesthetically, well, maybe I'm biased, but it looks gorgeous, and so that fills you up with just a general sense of well-being. If you like the outside world, then it's very much rewarding to be amongst it. Yeah.
So you said after about 5 years, you and your wife were discussing about taking it to the next level. Then what did it become, a charity or a company?
Well, we could have gone down that road, but in the end, we decided that we'd create an enterprise, because we were really thought, because I mean, I come obviously from having a commercial background, and I really felt that we could grow this idea by making partnerships with business, not also with individuals though. So I'm not going to describe it without that, because they're extremely vital part of the whole community that's formed. But we literally can offer, as I say, to an individual or to a business, an opportunity to support it, and that could literally be sponsor a bird box or a pond for a year or longer, or it could be contribute to us planting some more trees, and then or it could be for, you might have come across the concept of carbon offsetting. So this is where the carbon that is being absorbed is then offered in mitigation of their own activities and what they are causing the release of. So it's a whole series of collaboration, really, and any income that generates it fuels us being able to do more. I mean, and now we have 11 sites in North Yorkshire. So that's
amazing. 11 sites. So how many people are in your team now? Because there was just
we still have quite a lean organisation. We have 10 of us. But we get an amazing help from a big group of volunteers who come, regularly. Well, some come very regularly, some come, more sporadically. But that extra help and manpower is really enormously useful, because we got, with all this this land to look after and to care for, require, because it might be that we need to mend a stone wall, or we might need to manage something that's becoming too dominant. Or we've got cattle. I've already heard of belted Galloways. They need checking each day, and so on. We have a lot of different things going on simultaneously, and so all the help you can get is really appreciated. And then, of course, I think I was telling you, Raj, that companies quite often do days with us, like conservation days. We did one yesterday, for example, or tree planting days, where they're coming out of their offices and you know, proverbially get their hands, well, not just proverbially, literally dirty. Because it's such a different experience than sitting in front of a computer screen or answering the phone or whatever they normally do in their day.
Absolutely. Now, how do people get hold of you? Do you have a website or contact details?
Absolutely. We have a website. So we are Make It Wild. So the website is www.makeitwild.co.uk. So there's a lot of information on there. If they wanted to email, then it's Chris, so CHRIS, at makeitwild.co.uk, and we, you know, would be happy to answer any questions.
Brilliant. Just one last question. What advice would you give to someone who wants to follow their dreams like you have, and it looked like you had a massive task ahead of you?
Well, I mean, you know, there is something about when you think about the life that we have, you know, you don't want to get to a point where you say, I wish I tried that. You know, we don't want to have that kind of regret if you can avoid it. So if there is something that you really want to do, I would endorse giving it a go, but you know, don't try and bite it off in one big chunk and get overwhelmed and demoralized. Break it down into incremental steps and seek help. There are always people willing to help, and often, you know, sometimes give of themselves, you know, freely and everything, especially when you're starting out. And yeah, absolutely, give it a go, and I think, you know, more often than not, you'll be glad you did.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. So thank you, Christopher Neave, co-founder of Make It Wild, and making a real difference to the wildlife as well as to people out there. And do follow us on this channel and subscribe and share. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks again, Christopher.
Thank you very much, Raj. Cheers.
Again. Bye.
Bye-bye.